In fact, Bob is my uncle. And I write a lot about him in my new book, The Relentless Courage of a Scared Child. And I'm very excited to share this with you. It's a very vulnerable story. It's a great story in the book because I talk about how scared I was of Bob when I was growing up. And then Bob really shared some vulnerable stuff that we're going to get back into about his really difficult journey and actually almost ending his life with a heroin overdose. And fortunately, um, that didn't happen. And he went on to then become this amazing mentor, entrepreneur, coaching CEOs, and ultimately coaching me. It's a full circle moment in my book and teaching me about this word that I love so much called responsibility. So I appreciate that. So thank you so much for coming back.
Hey, it's my pleasure. I had a fun week last week.
Oh, I loved it. It was very special to me. Um, Not everybody can say that the people in their lives that terrify them when they're young end up becoming just, very, very bonded to them and very special in their lives. And not just that, but have a special meaning that really helps them on their journey. And so I thought that was really just a really neat way that I could portray that in the book. But what I really love is the comments and the questions we got after our interview were just wonderful because your vulnerability. So your vulnerability was really awesome. I know we're having a little bit of, I think, tech issues. So I'm so sorry if you guys are. I feel like tech issues are just like the way of the future with COVID. So I apologize, but we are doing everything we can. So people are writing in. Hi, Tana and Bob. Good evening. Thank you so much for writing in. Um, So I'm going to sit a little bit close so you guys can hear me. But I went back and read the comments and the questions after our interview, and people were really touched by your authenticity and your vulnerability. And I wanted to just talk a little bit about how you made that transition because I got a lot of people commenting on like, well, how did you do this? Because we deal a lot with addiction in our clinic, and not everyone successfully makes that transition from heroin addict to or cocaine addict or whatever addict to this having this life that they love. I mean, you have an amazing family and you have this life of purpose that you love. Why? Why were you able to do it? I mean, you told the story about waking up in a hospital because someone found you with a needle in your arm and you were turning blue. And I talk about that in my book. But that's a big shift to make.
Well, when I mentioned in that waking up, and at that moment, the overdose was because I felt no one loved me or that I was unlovable. But I woke up feeling loved, knowing that I was loved. And for me, that was, there were people that told me that in music, but was that God touching me? I believe so. And so I think when we have a sense of purpose, that we were given a purpose, I knew I was to be a teacher of some sort. Not clear what that would be. How never came into the equation. I was just clear it was going to happen. And, I've learned different concepts from then until now that I tend to live. And that is the system with the greatest range of flexibility will control the system. So how do you operate with a greater range of flexibility than the system you're in?
Can you say that again?
The system with the greatest range of flexibility will control the system. So even right now with the tech issues that are going on, there will be people that listen because part of the way they process is they're critiquing everything. And that doesn't make them bad. That's just what they do. And they would probably be my doctor, my lawyer, my editor, all of these things because they have lists of criteria in their mind. Now, with that, but the greater range of flexibility you have with the process we're doing right now allows you to actually take in the process.
I love that.
And how do you respond to life?
That's
And
very,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, that's very cool. I love that. I feel like one thing that helped me was when I was going through my hardest time, I started developing questions. I feel like questions often help. And one thing I did, and it sort of fits in with what you were saying, is I started asking myself, what can this teach me? So, what can this situation teach me? What can I be grateful for? And how can I use it to help someone else? And in the worst situations, I would start to do that. Because if I just focused on how much it was bothering me, nothing would happen. But if I start focusing on questions to empower me, I felt myself beginning to go that direction. It's like your brain has no sense of humor. If you ask questions, your brain's going to find an answer. Does that make sense?
Yes. Well, it does, because again, the operates like a 9-year-old. It wants what it wants once it doesn't have a center, and it wants to please. So it's always trying to make you feel good. Well, for me, that was some choices that weren't very healthy. But questions are really important to me. One of the core of living from is to tell the truth faster, especially to yourself. But another concept that I live by and I learned from NLP was questions are the answer. So how can you ask the right questions?
I think I might have learned that from you then.
It's a matter of learning how to ask questions, even of yourself, to whereby the very answer you would give would be like if I was asking you a question, but I wanted to tell you something, I would ask you a question in a way to where the answer you would give me would be what I wanted to tell you. So you're coming up with information. Does that make sense?
Yes, it's very interesting. I like that. So you felt loved. You feel like that's like one of the big things that helped you on this journey. Was that you felt loved? It was the overarching thing that made you know everything was going to be okay.
I did. And one of the things that, there's so many different pieces to this whole puzzle, and for me anyway, that's why I make lists of the concepts I want to live by. I work hard to live by. Do I do them every day? No. Do I catch myself quicker? And I'm able to, like I said before, bust my own games quicker so that we're not looking for excuses or anything. We're just kind of just making it work. And but when you're telling the truth faster, you're able to, you can take those steps to make a difference. And complete incompletes, if that makes sense. Because I had a lot of incompletes. So I make lists of things that I know I need to complete. And they may be big things, they may be little things. And then to have a purpose. I mean, if the people watching and listening right now, my question for them would, do they have goals? And if they're answering to themselves right now, yes, I would just want to know, are they written down? Because if they're not goals.
Right.
They're wishes.
So someone is writing in.
And you're.
I'm sorry, I cut you. I had a delay. Finish that.
Well, when you have goals and you've written them down, you now become accountable for what you wrote down. Until it's written down on paper or wherever you want to put it, you're not accountable. And being accountable to yourself, to me, is first. And then, do you have support? You don't typically want your best friends or family to be your support, because they may think that you can't do it and they're trying to help you from not being hurt. So they may not support you in the right way.
Right.
But one of the things I learned from Les Brown was make a list of the 10 people you interact with the most and go down that list and ask yourself, am I becoming a better person through this interaction? And if the answer isn't a hard yes, that's a toxic person in your. So there are decisions that need to be made. Only you can make them. But what are you willing to settle for?
What are you willing to settle for?
Because are you willing to make the hard choices?
So I like this, and people are actually writing stuff in. So I want to address a couple things because they're really interesting. Someone said family healing could mean a lot of things, and that's true. So one of the people last week wrote in something I think that goes along with that, and that is, I've damaged my family relationships beyond repair. What if they never forgive me? So family healing means a lot of things. What if it means that there are some people who don't forgive you?
There was a bit of a delay there, but let me just say one thing though about family. Now, I've damaged family relationships, and thank God. I mean, I believe that I've been, in a sense, forgiven with that. The tougher part is, do we forgive ourselves? And that's the question, because it's more important that you forgive yourself for whatever you did and move on and be the person you think they would want you to be, but it's more important to be the person you truly want to be. Mm-hmm. And guess what? They will either forgive you or not. And as I learned from Mark Victor Hansen, SW, SW, SW. Some will, some won't, so what?
I love
you move on.
So great.
You just move on.
You know, one of the things I learned that I love that helps me,
and
we're having this weird delay. But one of the things I also learned that I loved so much was, you know, some people are going to love you, some people are going to hate you, and it's not going to have anything to do with you.
That's correct.
And so you're going to have to find a way to love yourself. I mean, and that's, it sounds so easy, it sounds so cliche, but it's so true. Is Byron Katie has a thing that I really embraced when I was going through my really hard time, and that is, it's not your job to love me, it's mine.
Yeah, I found that, and with a lot of my clients before, I found that we tend to be much harder on ourselves than anyone has ever been to us, you know. So it's, and if it was something from someone else, how many times have we replayed it in our mind? Right. So that we're just abusing ourselves every time we're thinking about it. And so it's a matter of just 8 task force on self-esteem. And Jack Canfield was a part of that, and that's where I got in touch with it. And then in Orange County, I was the president of the Orange County chapter for a while. And the definition they came up with was so awesome. And it was appreciating my own worth and importance and having the character to be accountable for myself and to act responsibly toward others. It's not just about how good you feel. Because I worked with gang members that if that was the key, I mean, they bordered on arrogance.
Right.
And that wasn't healthy self-esteem.
Right.
But to be accountable, to appreciate my own worth and importance, and to have the character to act responsibly for myself and toward others is a pretty awesome feeling.
Yeah. That's pretty amazing. So you touched on the next question, which was, how do I forgive myself? I think we throw that around a lot. It's like, I need to love myself. I need to forgive myself. But not everybody feels lovable. I mean, I went through a period in my life of just hating myself, self-loathing. You don't always feel lovable. What did you do? Did you ever feel like that? Did you have a period like that? Or what do you tell people?
That was the whole purpose of the intentional overdose, was I didn't think anybody out there cared whether I lived or died. You know, so it's really about how do we build. You know, when I worked with gangs and everything, one of the things I learned was, you know, there's basic needs. So if you look at even Maslow's hierarchy, but basic needs of safety and security, identity, self-concept, that belonging and connection, purpose and meaning and having competence and feeling confident, which is everything a family should be. Right. And there's pieces missing. But they meet those needs, and that's why it's so easy for them to take our kids. That becomes family. And how can we, it's really, again, being honest to yourself. What are you doing to fill your own emotional bank account? So you're either doing things to add to your emotional bank account, or you're writing checks on that account that you can't cash. Mm. So it's pay attention to what you're doing, your behaviors, and see if you can bust your own games that you do, because not everybody wants to get rid of their problems. Yeah. What's the secondary gain there?
Yes. I've worked with a lot of people who they will always come up with the yeah, but. Yeah. And it's like, okay, we're literally giving you the formula, and it's like, but I can't do that. And you can see it. And I don't know if anyone else watching has had that issue with someone they've worked with. It's really interesting when you can see someone else doing that. I know I've done it in the past. I've certainly done it when I was, I didn't like myself. There's every reason, or when I was scared to change. Because the fear of the unknown is, it can be terrifying. Sometimes it's scarier than the suckiness of what we're in.
When I was working with Jack Canfield, one of the things that, I'm a 1.4 grade point average out of night school. And by the way, proud of it. Now I spent a lot of money on business trainings because you have to get your knowledge someplace. But I remember asking Jack one time, I said, Jack, what the hell qualifies me to work with these people? And he looked at me and he said, Bobby, it's simple. You produce results. Mm. I never heard that from anyone. So that was really of something really happening. And me gaining that competence and confidence to keep going.
Yeah. And Perpin, you touched on something before that it's what Daniel and I talk about all the time. It's about how having purpose made a big difference. You knew that you were going to make a difference and be purposeful. Purposeful people live longer. They're happier. They're more content with themselves, even during bad times. And so it's why we're always trying to sort of pound on that, is turning pain into purpose. And that's exactly what you did, was turn pain into purpose. That's what my book is about, is turning pain into purpose.
Yep.
So, but there are people who feel like, we just touched on secondary gain, and they don't want to really change. And I've certainly worked with people like that. Some people feel like change is just insurmountable. They feel like it's just so big, it's too big to make it work. How do they get started? What?
Well, when I worked with companies and they were going to be creating change, I would tell them, people aren't afraid of change. They're afraid of being changed. So when they would tell a department or anything else what the benefits of the change will create, they weren't as skeptical of the change. They weren't as afraid of it. They were willing to participate. And, we all are, I think, in a sense, kind of afraid to fail. Well, then don't look at it as a win-fail. Whatever changes you're going to attempt, look at it as a test. Works. Guess what? If it works, it was a good test. If it wasn't, so what? It was a test. I don't look at it as failure. Yeah. So, I've had a lot of tests that didn't work, but they were just tests. So, and I make everything fun. I'm, even you telling me earlier, stay in 30, and I'm going, oh, is that today? That's the way I operate.
No heart attack,
If you don't make life fun, it's just life.
Yeah.
I won't live that way.
Yeah. No.
What are you willing to settle for?
Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I did when it just felt so big, I'm like, how am I going to get from here to there? It just felt huge to me. I learned this concept of chunking down, and it really helped me. It's like you don't eat an elephant in one bite, kind of the idea.
Yeah, I mean, because by the way, chunking down is like, the old saying, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
Right.
And by the way, going through your book really helped me because it started a whole new process of purpose in me. So, I'm always teaching that not all learning is in one school.
Yep.
And be open to it all. And look for the learnings, look for that little piece of light that will make your light stronger. And so that you can live on. It's, if you can see, we just closed escrow on the house. And I got the keys today. And I told the wife, the seller there, and I told her, I said, this is really a pleasure in getting this house, because make it a home when it was a home before we got it, because you can tell it was.
That's interesting.
And it just, and you know what? She really appreciated hearing that. But that was what it really felt like. So,
what is one of your favorite stories of someone that just, it might have seemed, they thought it was hopeless, other people thought it was hopeless, but it turned out amazing?
There's one that I don't know that I could actually talk about. Not that it's bad or vulgar or anything else. It's just that it was personal for somebody, and and it, gosh, man, there's really several of it that I live by. Is how do you meet somebody in their model of the world? Mm-hmm. And we were in a large training one time, and with Jack, and there are 250 people. It was a really emotional training. It was a week-long intensive training. And there was a person that something came up for her. It was almost like a hallucination, but she goes outside, and there were issues. I went out with her as head of the team with Jack, and went out with her and walking along, and she was going, there's butterflies. There's just butterflies everywhere. Well, there wasn't butterflies. I just went right along with her. Yeah, they're beautiful. And we went around, but I met her in her model of the world. Now, by the way, she ended up being diagnosed bipolar.
Yeah.
But whatever the episode was she was in, I met her in that episode. And we created a bond and a trust with each other. I don't want to, in hypnosis and all, being a hypnotist, that you pace and lead people, where if you're pacing them, you're able to lead them.
Right.
And it literally led her back. So, and she became a coaching client of mine for quite a while. So, I mean, it was a very personal experience. But we see people out there all the time that need help. We can't help everybody, mm-hmm. but we can help the people that help them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah.
I know when you helped me, you must have been doing that. You must have been sort of game rapport or something, because it triggered me very quickly. The word responsibility just really hit me hard. So being able to gain rapport is what I heard you sort of say. Gain rapport and then be able to work with them and move them forward out of whatever it is that you're talking about. But I'm one of the people that you were able to really make a significant difference with. Because I know you often say that one of the best parts about the time that you spent being addicted to heroin was, the one thing you can actually do thankful for is that you gave me shock therapy. You did. You gave me shock therapy.
Yeah.
So I didn't experiment with those types of drugs ever. I was too afraid to.
Well, I think as we mentioned last week, just by you never using drugs because of seeing me, and I mentioned, what we're always teaching. No matter what we're doing during the day, we're always teaching. Even when we're at our lowest point, we are teaching. And sometimes we're just teaching ourselves. So, I share with as a father, is to help teach you how to cope and deal with whatever comes up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, I would often tell people in trainings, by the end of the training, you're going to know how to know exactly what somebody else is thinking.
Right.
And I wouldn't say anything about it, but at the end, they'd always say, hey, wait a minute, you were going to teach us this. I said, well, they're thinking whatever they're thinking, and it's none of our business.
Right.
It's what are you thinking about yourself?
Right.
We get so worried about what everybody else thinks that when you have people introduce themselves in a training to 10 people or so, and then ask them, okay, write down whatever you remember about the 10 people you just met, they often can't remember much of anything.
They were so busy thinking about what they were going to say.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's another one of my favorite things is, besides what other people think about me is none of my business. Besides the one I said earlier, it's not your job to love me, it's mine, is what other people think about me is none of my business. So I've always liked that one.
Well, like I said, in going through your book and everything, there was a number of things of where I recognized I actually got off my purpose and went, crap, this is where I need to be. So I thank you for that, because we just we have to, people are hearing things right now they've heard before. And my question is, ask yourself, are you using the information? Because if not, it's time to relearn it and do it. And it's kind of like they say, there's no new information, it's just being recycled.
Exactly.
That's one of the programs I have is, what's the magnitude of your attitude or desperation?
Yeah.
And that choice is yours.
I love that. We are actually out of time. And on that note, we've got people actually asking about information on you. So I will get back to you guys. I will actually answer those questions. But I appreciate you so much. And I appreciate your authenticity and your vulnerability and your willingness to just put yourself out there and humble yourself. I mean, it's just one of your best qualities in my mind. And you've made such a difference in my life, and I know in so many people's lives. And so I'm grateful to you. This is my Uncle Bob. I write about him in my new book, The Relentless Courage of a Scared Child, which, if you are interested, is actually up for pre-order at relentlesscourage.com. We've got a number of free gifts for you, almost $500 worth of free gifts. And mostly, they're really designed to help you on your journey. A lot of the stuff that we're talking about now, it's really fun. But if you are struggling beyond that and you really need to see a professional, someone who's having some pretty dark thoughts, which in this time depression is crippled, please don't hesitate to reach out. We've got specialists that can help you. We've got people that can answer calls, 844-818-0616, and talk to one of our care specialists. We want to hear from you. So we also have a free event coming up. So on the December 12th, we have a free event, and you have an opportunity to win a free brain scan and full evaluation at Amen Clinics if you go to hannahAmen.com/event and register. We're going to have amazing speakers, and it's going to be incredible. So join us again next week. Can't wait to see you guys. Can't wait to hear from you. Thank you for sticking with our tech issues. We're going to figure it out. Thanks so much. Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care, everyone.